They say every marriage has its quiet seasons, the soft, predictable rhythm of routine, like a well-worn song you hum without thinking. But what if you woke up one morning and found a new note hidden in that melody? A sharp, unexpected chord that made you stop and really listen. My name is Rachel. I've been married to Noah for almost a decade. Our life in Portland was good sweet even. We had trust laughter, great sex, and this effortless ease that made everything feel safe. Too safe, maybe. It was a rainy Sunday morning in early spring, the kind where you stay in bed too long, wrapped up in each other and the leftover warmth of last night's affection. I rolled over my hair a mess, skin still tingling from the closeness we shared hours before. Noah's arm was draped across my stomach, heavy and comforting. He stirred slightly as I reached across him to grab his phone off the nightstand. "Gonna show you that stretch I found," I mumbled, thumbing open his screen. "You're gonna love it. Looks wild." But before I could even open the browser, it appeared a message banner lighting up the top of the screen like a flare. "Madison, you made that team call bearable today. I swear you brightened my whole week." I paused. Madison. That name rang a faint bell. She was new at his job. A software analyst. I think Noah had mentioned her in passing once or twice. I hadn't paid much attention at the time, but now I tapped the thread. Innocent curiosity, I told myself. Just looking. The texts weren't scandalous. No naked pics or late-night sexting. But sometimes, what's not said screams louder. The emojis, the tone, the timing. Midnight messages. Little compliments peppered between tech updates. "You're hilarious. You have the best ideas. Wish I could pick your brain over drinks sometime." My breath caught. She was flirting. Badly masked, yes, but undeniably. And what stunned me wasn't just her. It was him. Noah didn't flirt back. But he didn't stop her either. His replies safe, respectful, but open just enough to keep the dance going. I set the phone down, turned to face him. "You know she's into you, right?" I said, my tone calm, measured. He blinked groggy. "Huh?" "Madison," I said. "From work." I read her message. She's clearly flirting. He frowned, reached for his phone. "She's just being friendly. That's how she is." I raised an eyebrow. "She sends you light up my week emojis to everyone." A sheepish smile. "I mean, I didn't really think about it that way. It's harmless." I leaned closer, let my leg brush his. "You like being the hot, wise older guy in the office?" "Know what well?" "Maybe a little." He chuckled nervously. I smiled. "Relax." I whispered, lips brushing his ear. "I get it. You're hot. I'd flirt with you too." That broke the tension. He laughed. I kissed his chest, teasing, letting the weight of what I knew linger. But later, after he left to meet a client, I stayed in bed thinking about Madison. Her messages, her energy, the way she probably leaned in when she talked to him. Laughed too loud at his dry jokes. Found excuses to text outside of work hours. And strangely, I wasn't angry. I was intrigued. I remembered a conversation we once had. Years ago, wine-drunk and tangled in hotel sheets after a friend's wedding. A whispered fantasy. Something about sharing about a third, about the thrill of watching someone else want what you already had. I never thought I'd actually consider it. But now, with Madison, what if I didn't shut it down? What if I turned the game on its head? What if I invited her in? And that's when I picked up my phone, found her contact in Noah's list, and typed the message that would change everything. Me. "Hi, Madison. This is Rachel, Noah's wife. We haven't really met, but I was wondering any chance you're free this afternoon, just to talk. Nothing bad, I promise." Her reply came faster than I expected. "Madison, sure, is everything okay?" "Me all good. Just bring coffee. And maybe come up with a decent excuse to leave work early." She didn't ask more, didn't even hesitate, which told me everything I needed to know. 32 minutes later, I watched her small gray hatchback pull into our driveway, wipers still ticking from the drizzle. She stepped out, clutching two oversized coffees like they were peace offerings. She was even prettier than I expected. Younger, maybe mid-20s, with a messy ponytail, nervous eyes, and that kind of energy that buzzes just beneath the skin, bright, excitable, a little chaotic. "Hey," she said, her voice breathy as she stepped inside. "Hey, I answered, calm as still water. Come in. She looked around the house like she was stepping into some kind of myth. Maybe she was. I brought vanilla lattes, she said, setting them on the counter. Perfect, I replied. You remembered mine. She blinked. I didn't know if you'd even answer. I smiled. You're nervous. Should I not be? I shrugged. Depends. How guilty do you feel? Her face drained of color. Wait, look, I swear I didn't mean nothing happened. I held up a hand. Relax. I'm not mad. She froze. I'm not here to accuse you, I continued, voice steady. I just think, if you're going to flirt with my husband, you should learn how to do it properly. She blinked again. What I took a slow step toward her. It means, I said softly, brushing a strand of damp hair from her cheek, I have a proposition. And before she could ask what I meant, I kissed her. It wasn't aggressive, just a test. A spark. When I pulled back, she didn't run. She didn't protest. She just stood there, lips parted, breath short, looking at me like she'd just stepped off the edge of something she didn't know she'd been standing on. I don't understand, she whispered. You don't have to, I said gently. Not yet. Then I leaned in again. This time she kissed me back. Tentative, curious, real. Her hand found my waist and I felt the tension in her body shift from fear to want. I slipped her jacket off her shoulders, slow and deliberate. Her t-shirt followed, then her broad, delicate lace mint green. I wondered if she'd chosen it just in case. I didn't ask. She let me undress her right there in the living room, our rug soft beneath her back. The afternoon light slanted through the window, cutting golden stripes across her skin. She was warm, trembling open. This wasn't about seduction. It was about discovery. My lips traced a path down her body, lingering where her breath hitched, where her hands gripped the rug a little tighter. I didn't rush. I listened to her breathing, her soft gasps, the way her hips lifted in offering. She came undone like silk unspooling. Quiet, raw, beautiful. And when it was over, when she lay there catching her breath, skin-flushed eyes wide with something between awe and disbelief, I curled beside her, resting my head near her ribs. That was... she murmured. I kissed her shoulder. I know. We stayed that way for a while, tangled and quiet. Then she turned to me, her voice trembling. I've never done anything like that before. I smiled. You handled it beautifully. She laughed, soft, nervous. You're dangerous. Not dangerous, I whispered. Just generous. Her fingers drifted to my arm. Can I? I didn't answer with words. I just let my dress slip off my shoulders. She took her time. Madison's touch was light at first, uncertain fingers tracing the slope of my collarbone, the curve of my ribs. Like she was learning a foreign language, one written entirely in skin. She kissed me again. Slower this time. Less scared. More sure. I let her. My dress slipped to the floor with a hush pooling around my ankles. She stood in front of me for a beat. Breath shallow, her eyes soaking me in like she wasn't sure if she was supposed to touch a painting or worship it. Then she reached for me, tender, deliberate. Her hands explored my body with reverence, as if memorizing not just shape, but intent. Her mouth followed the path of her fingers over my chest, down my stomach, pausing just below my navel. She looked up once, silently asking permission. I gave it with a nod. Her lips moved lower, soft and warm and full of trembling grace. And then I felt her. Tentative at first, like dipping her toes into deep water. Then bolder as she picked up on the cadence of my breath, the tightening in my thighs, the soft sounds I couldn't hold in. I let go completely, head falling back, fingers sliding into her hair. The tension coiled inside me, building with every second until it broke sharp and sweet, and everything in between. I gasped, the sound echoing in the quiet room like an exhale I'd been holding for years. She stayed there close, her cheek resting gently against my hip bone. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. Eventually, she crawled up beside me again. Her cheek-flushed eyes wide and glowing with some mix of pride and disbelief. I can't believe I just did that, she whispered. I smiled and brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. You did it beautifully. She shook her head and laughed, breathy, nervous, a little wild. You're seriously unreal. Like, dangerously unreal. Maybe, I murmured. Or maybe you just needed someone to show you what's possible. She paused, her hand still on my stomach. Was this for him? She asked finally. Was I? Her voice wasn't bitter, just unsure. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who a few hours ago was just a name in my husband's texts. Now she was here, real, open, tangled in my world. And I didn't want to lie. Partly, I said honestly, but also, for you, for me. She nodded slowly, understanding more than I expected. Then, just as I leaned in to kiss her again, the front door opened. We both froze. Madison's eyes went wide. Her body stiffened beside me. I reached for the soft throw on the couch, wrapped it around her, and sat up just as footsteps hit the stairs. Relax, I whispered, brushing her shoulder. This part's for him. She looked at me like I was absolutely insane. I kissed her temple gently. The footsteps stopped outside the living room, and then Noah appeared, hair damp from the rain, briefcase still in hand, his expression casual until he looked up and saw us. 2 women, curled together on the rug. Bare skin, tangled limbs, pillow-bent hair. He froze like he'd walked into a dream. A very specific, very forbidden dream. I stood slowly, letting the throw slide a little off my shoulder, exposing just enough. I didn't speak. I walked to him, took the briefcase from his hand and set it on the floor. Then I kissed him. Soft. Sure. Deep enough to break him out of his trance. His breath caught. His hands hovered, unsure where to land. I leaned in, whispered against his mouth. It's okay. You're not dreaming. His eyes flicked to Madison, then back to me. What's happening? He breathed. I smiled. We're giving you what you never asked for but always wanted. He still looked stunned, like his brain hadn't caught up to his body. I began unbuttoning his shirt, slowly, one button at a time, and when it dropped to the floor, I stepped back, took his hand, and led him toward the bedroom. Madison followed, her bare feet quiet on the wood floors. Noah moved like a man possessed, or maybe released. When we reached the edge of the bed, he sat down without a word, eyes darting between us. I knelt beside him. Madison did too. Let us take care of you, I whispered. He swallowed hard, nodded. And then Madison leaned in. Madison leaned in, her breath soft against his skin. Noah twitched slightly as her lips touched his chest, like he wasn't sure whether to flinch or fall apart. I was beside him, one hand on his shoulder, grounding him. It's okay, I whispered. Let it happen. He looked at me, eyes wide, like he was waiting for the punchline to some impossible joke. But all he saw in my face was permission. No guilt, no anger. Just this calm, unwavering yes. Madison's fingers were trembling slightly as she moved down his body. Her mouth kissed a trail across his ribs, his stomach. I saw her eyes flick toward me, checking, confirming before she reached his belt. I smiled and nodded. She undid it slowly, every movement filled with tension. He gasped the moment her hands brushed against him. His chest rose, his fists clutching the blanket beneath him. Just breathe, I said in his ear, pressing a kiss to his temple. You're doing so well. Madison's head dipped lower. Noah's breath caught in his throat, his body stiffening as the warmth of her mouth met the heat of his skin. I watched his hands curl, his jaw tighten, his lips part with a sound he tried and failed to contain. I kissed his chest, held his hand. Let him feel the safety of my presence, even as he surrendered to hers. She moved slowly, learning him, listening to his breath, following the small involuntary ways his body spoke back. I saw it happen that moment when resistance melted into something primal, not lust, not shame, permission. He opened to it, to us. His eyes fluttered shut, his head tilted back. He was gone adrift in a place only we could take him. Eventually, I gently eased Madison upward, pulling her beside him. Her lips were swollen, her breath quick. She looked dazed, like she just wandered into the center of a storm and didn't want to leave. I've never, she whispered. I kissed her softly. I know, I said. But you're not done. I looked at Noah. Lie back. He obeyed, body sinking into the mattress, every muscle loose. Then I turned to Madison. Your turn. She blinked. Wait. Take control, I said gently. Let him feel you now. Her cheeks flushed, but something behind her eyes shifted curiosity, turning into fire. She climbed over him, straddling him with hesitant grace, knees pressing into the mattress on either side of his hips. Noah's hands instinctively went to her thighs. He looked like he might explode from just that. Madison reached for him, guiding him in with both hands, her breath stuttering as she lowered herself onto him. Noah gasped, his eyes flying open, jaw slack. Madison froze for a second, adjusting. She looked down at him. "You okay?" she asked softly. He just nodded, helpless. She began to move, slow rocking, gently feeling her way through the rhythm. I sat beside them, stroking Noah's chest, watching every flicker in his face. He was watching her like she was some kind of miracle, and in a way she was. "You're beautiful," I whispered to her. "Look at you." Madison smiled, small, real proud. I leaned close to Noah's ear. "You've never seen her like this, never had her like this, and now you do." He let out a broken breath. Madison's movements grew bolder, her hair falling forward in a curtain as she rode him, her fingers gripping his sides. I leaned over, kissed her shoulder, then kissed him. "You're inside her," I whispered against his lips. "And I'm inside you. Can you feel both of us?" He nodded almost desperately, and then I saw it. The tightening in his stomach, the way his hands clutched at her hips, the way she arched and gasped, her own pleasure peaking in waves. He was close. So was she. So was I, just from watching. I guided Madison's hand to his chest. "Finish him," I said. She did. A few more motions, desperate, trembling, and then he came undone beneath her. His back-arching mouth falling open, a sound escaping his throat that didn't sound like any version of the Noah I knew. It was raw and real. Madison collapsed on top of him, breathless. I curled beside them both, wrapping an arm around Noah's chest, another around Madison's back. The room was quiet except for the storm of 3 hearts beating wildly in the silence. Noah opened his eyes, looked at me. His voice was nothing more than a whisper. "Why?" I kissed his forehead. "Because I said you're a good man, and I just wanted to give you something you'd never forget." We didn't speak for a while. The room was dim now, the early evening light casting long golden stripes across the bedroom walls. The kind of light that makes everything look cinematic, like it knows it just witnessed something worth remembering. Madison lay draped across Noah's chest, her fingers tracing slow circles along his skin. I rested beside them, my head on his shoulder, my arm curled around her waist. We were a tangle of skin and breath and steady, exhausted hearts. Noah finally spoke. "That wasn't a dream, right?" I smiled, lips brushing his jaw. "Not unless we all had the same one." He exhaled long and low. "Jesus." Madison laughed softly, her voice husky. That's probably the most accurate response. We all laughed quietly. It was the kind of laughter that breaks tension but doesn't erase it, because under the warmth, the softness, the glow of release, there were questions. Not ugly ones, just real ones. Madison sat up slowly, pulling the sheets over her chest. Her expression was unreadable, half wonder, half worry. "So, what happens now?" I didn't answer right away, because that was the truth I didn't know. This hadn't been a trap. It wasn't some revenge fantasy or a test of Noah's loyalty. It wasn't even about spicing up a decade-long marriage, though yes, that certainly happened. It was something deeper. It was about curiosity, about control, about reclaiming the narrative before it slipped out of my hands. I had seen a woman flirting with my husband, and instead of reacting with fear or anger or jealousy, I had done something wildly different. I had invited it in. And in doing so, I had discovered something about myself I didn't even know I was looking for. Desire. Not just mine. Not just his. Ours. Shared. Explored. Claimed. I turned to Madison. "What happens now," I said slowly, "is whatever we decide. There are no rules here. No expectations. Just honesty." She looked relieved, but also emotional. "I didn't come here to steal him," she whispered. "I know," I said. "You didn't." Noah reached for her hand. "You were incredible," he said. "But this was her idea, not mine." She looked between us, a flicker of something vulnerable passing through her eyes. "You two are kind of insane," she said, smiling. But in the best way. I kissed her. One last time that night. A kiss not of heat, but of thanks. She left an hour later, her hair pulled back into a messy knot, my sweatshirt draped over her bare shoulders. We didn't promise anything, didn't plan a sequel. She just smiled at me at the door and said, "You're not what I expected." I grinned. "Neither are you." And then she was gone. Noah and I stood in the hallway for a moment after the door closed, the silence between us not awkward but full. Full of weight, of wonder, of something we'd never be able to name properly, not even years from now. He finally turned to me. "You're gonna have to explain this to me, like, eventually." I laughed. "Good luck catching up. I'm like 6 moves ahead." He wrapped his arms around me, pulling me against his chest. "I don't think I've ever loved you more," he whispered. I rested my head there against the familiar rhythm of him. "Good," I said. "Then next time, maybe you'll believe me when I say trust isn't about controlling what we don't do." He pulled back just enough to look at me. "It's about what we choose to do together." I nodded, and that was the end of it. Or the beginning. Depends on how you look at it. So now I'll ask you, the listener, if you walked into your bedroom and saw that. 2 women, one yours, one unexpected. Would you hesitate, or would you walk in, close the door, and surrender to the moment? Tell me in the comments. Be honest. And don't forget, if this story stirred something in you, like, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because this was only the beginning.